Hi, everybody. My name is Maureen, and I am the founder and owner of BarMD. We are a full service bar prep company for California and any of the UBE jurisdictions. I also do work with some of the other non-UBE, non-California. I work with Georgia, Florida, et cetera, as well. Um, so if you're taking any of those exams, we can help you. So I just wanted to introduce myself, say thank you so much for being here. And I just apologize. My voice is a little bit shot. I'm getting over being sick. So please excuse that. But I'm just really grateful that you all are here. And if you guys have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat or put them in the Q&A and I will get to them. But tonight we are focused on writing essays. The approach to writing essays for California and for the UBE and like for any bar exam is the same. You follow the same steps. There are a couple of differences that I'm going to point out. I have two essays. We're going to use a California one because I think it's easier to see the steps. And I can talk about the differences between California and the UBE that way, easier, I think. So for you UBE people, it's super, super helpful for you too. Same principles apply. And I'll talk about the differences as well. First, I want to show everybody some access to some of our free resources. So I'm going to share my screen. So if you go to my website, it's bar-md.com. So bar-md. And if you click, like if you just click through one of these boxes, so if you click on like California or UBE, so we still have, if you are looking to sign up for full bar prep, we have our core program and you can do it with or without the MBE. That's available here. So just FYI, if you click through, that's what you see. But if you go to the top of the website right here, it says free study resources. If you click on that, so you can register for our free workshops. We have another workshop this Thursday on the PT coming up. So check that out. You can register for it on our website. I'm going to put the website in the chat right now as well. There's the link to this particular page. We also have some free sample materials. So the MBE book, for example, just came out. We have our MEE and MPT books coming out very soon, I think this month in December. So for everybody here, it depends on the exam you're taking, but there's basically 4 free workshop classes you should register for. We used to just have one and throw everything in there, but we found that it was a bit overwhelming and people couldn't necessarily find what they were looking for. So every single one of you should sign up for bar exam strategy. So if you click on this and click enroll for free, you'll be able to enroll. And this has like our review of the past bar exams are in there. Anything that sort of applies broadly to any bar exam is in there. We also have an essay workshop for a free one for the MBE. So definitely check that out. Definitely check this out too. You should all register for that. And then the next is where if you're taking California, you should register for the California PT free class and the California Bar Essays free class. And if you're UBE, we have one for UBE and one for the MPT and the MEE. So these are all in here. And then we also have our books. We have hard copies. We're literally going to print today. So we have all of these wait lists if you want to get a hard copy of a book too. And our social media down here, along with a link to listen to our podcast. I'm starting to record once my voice comes back fully. I'm starting to record new episodes for the podcast. So lots and lots of free resources that are in here. So definitely check these out, sign up for them. Tons of great info in here. All right. Now, tonight we are going to talk about essays. And I'm going to cover one thing that is really, really, I think everything is important, but the last thing I'm going to talk about is so key. So by the end of today, you're going to know how graders grade at bar essays, understand common essay errors. I've talked about these a lot in prior workshops. I would definitely talk about them tonight, but I'm not going to we don't spend a ton of time in that. I also really want to talk about how to approach any bar essay, so California or UBE, and I will talk about the distinctions between California and UBE when I'm doing that. I also really want to talk about how to assess your fact use. Often, because I've just spent the last 5 weeks, 6 weeks meeting with people to go over their bar scores and to look at their scores, like what does it mean? Why did you get a particular score? What happened if you took the exam and didn't pass it? And a lot of times, if you're close to passing but you didn't pass, it all comes down to your use of the facts, really, which is your analysis. So I want to really talk about that today a little bit too. So that's what we're going to talk about. So first, this is so, so key. And I want to talk about something that sometimes I think people hear versus what I'm meaning. So bar graders spend 2 to 3 minutes on each essay. That's reading it, grading it. That's it. They give you a score after that. They don't dig into it. They don't go deep. They look for keywords. They look for thorough analysis. They look to make sure you're spotting the right issues, and they don't look twice. So a lot of times people are like, oh, so I just need to organize better. No, that is not the case. Often you need to, like, an essay addressing the issues and being organized well is a baseline. That is your absolute baseline. Really, what you need to do to write a passing essay is to have incredibly solid analysis that demonstrates that you understand completely the law and the issues that are being presented. That is your job is to present that information in an easy to read, like well organized essay. That is your job so that someone who is spending 2 to 3 minutes reading your essay can give you all the points. So organizing is important to the extent that it lets them see your great analysis. That's the point. The analysis is what's key. You have to, though, be able to like write a well-organized, correctly issue spotted essay. And you have to be able to get that stuff down quickly. So I did a workshop, I think last Monday, where I dug into like really how do you get started writing essays? How do you know how to like write a well-organized essay, etc. I have, if do any of you here have my essay book? I know some of you do. So my essay book is literally templates for how to write any single issue on the bar exam. So like that they give you. So it's super, super helpful. If you find that you're having trouble like thinking about how do I organize this? What do I need to analyze? This book answers all of that. And it's literally templates. And yeah, we're literally for the essay book, it's they're literally like they went to the printer this past Friday. So we're gonna send out an email in the next couple of days to order it. You will always get digital and you can add on the hard copy. So if you're waiting for it, they're literally being printed right now. So you can start with, I would just get started with the digital and you will get your hard copy as well. So these are some really common essay errors. So first, failing to answer the call of the question, like, you know, if you leave something blank, that's obviously going to be a huge problem. It's going to be a really big problem. But also just if you're not really answering, like they ask you one thing and you give information on something else, that doesn't fly. Don't do that. It's a total waste of your time. Failing to use a specific fact. So the facts are written in a particular way. They want you to use the facts as they're written. You don't need to change them. You don't need to paraphrase. You can do those things as long as you're not changing the meaning of it. But you want to use the specific facts in the fact pattern and you want to use as many as possible. And when I say use, I mean actually explaining the significance of the fact and how it connects to the law to prove whether or not the requirements of a rule are or are not satisfied. 3, lack of organization. This is just for the organization is literally just for like that's a baseline. Like I said, it's so that the bar graders can easily find and see that you address the right issues, you're using the right facts in the right places. They can quickly see your analysis and see that you're going in depth in the appropriate places. Spaghetti walling. Spaghetti walling is just like if you see and you're like, I don't know what to do, so you just start throwing everything and seeing what sticks. You don't want to do that. So especially, I mean, like if you don't know what to do at all, then I get doing that a little bit, but you want to actually be much more methodical about that. And I talk about that in my final forecast class. It's like 2 weeks before the exam. We talk about like all the crazy things that happen. It's not, I don't do predictions, but I talk about like all of the within every single subject, what is more likely to come up. And I give you a packet of essays. So that's a whole other thing. But spaghetti walling is sometimes people are just like, they're like, oh, I'm in torts. And they start like typing all these rules that they don't necessarily need. And they're talking about issues that they're not asked to address. So don't do that. 5, failing to tackle the tough issues. This is really like when you have that fact that sort of stumps you, you don't know where to use it, you don't know how to use it, or like you see a counter argument and you don't really know which way to go and you just don't deal with it at all. You need to deal with it. So not tackling the tough issues is super problematic. So this is where like practicing comes into play. And you have to just start writing essays. So, you know, I know that you will go into essays and you're in practice and you're not going to know all of the law you need to know. The whole point of doing essays and practicing is so that you identify what you know and what you don't know. That's the whole point. So you really want to, and then also so you can like see what are the tough issues for you and you can correct that as much as possible. 6, poor writing. This doesn't actually, I don't see this all that often on the bar. It's okay. Like you don't have to write perfectly. You don't have to, you know, have like I turn spell check off when I'm teaching because it's not a big deal if there are some typos, as long as we can just like, as long as generally like we know exactly what you mean. If it's so riddled with errors, that's a problem. But generally speaking, that's not a big issue. Number 7 is a huge problem though. Most people think that they're analyzing, but all they're doing is stating facts. So when a lot of people are like, I don't understand, I hit this issue, I will look at their analysis from their essay I'd be like, but you didn't analyze. You stated a fact, stated a fact, stated a fact, stated a fact, then a conclusion. At no point did they connect the facts and the law. You have to like actually connect the law and the facts. This is something that I go into deeply in my essay book, and I go into it deeply in the essay course. 8 is failing to show your work. That's sort of the same thing with if you're just dumping facts, you're just stating facts, you're not connecting them to the law, and you're not actually like using a because in every single sentence of analysis. That's a problem. So show how you came to your conclusion and like show every single step. 9, failing to set forth assumptions. Occasionally you're going to have to set forth an assumption. So that happens frequently where like there's a counter argument. So let's say you have a scenario. Let's say that you have a scenario, for example, where you conclude, say, negligence, and you conclude that under Cardozo, a duty isn't owed. Maybe you're like, they weren't in the zone of danger. And so you conclude that a duty is not owed. My dog wants to join. So in that case, then you would have to say, assuming we're in an Andrews jurisdiction where a duty is owed to everybody. So something like that. Or maybe you decide there's no minimum contacts, or maybe it's ambiguous whether there's minimum contacts. Well, you need to still complete your personal jurisdiction analysis. You have to still do the next 2 elements of the constitutional test. So you want to say, assuming the court did find that there was minimum contacts, we would, then analyze relatedness and fairness. Then failing to try, even if you have no idea, you have to try. Like you can't just like, and what happens is sometimes people will see an essay and they'll be like, I don't know what to do. So they skip it and go to the next one. Don't do that. Like do what you can with that essay. You've already spent time reading it and like go after it. Don't just be like, all right, I'm just going to go nuts on these other 2 and come back and like kind of give it short shrift. Really try, do your best. And in my final forecast class that I do in February, like I will talk about this. What do you do when you don't know what to do? When you see it and you're like, I have no idea. That's something we absolutely cover. 11 is failing to be professional. Just be professional in your writing overall. Any questions about any of that? So this is pre-writing. This is organizing your answer. So these are the steps that you're going to go through. These are the steps you go through every single time. So, and it's different slightly. It's just different in the timing for California versus the UBE, but you can spend up to 1/3 of your time doing this. You can spend up to 1/3 of your time doing this. So it's really, really important because this is what the whole point of doing this is, to do all of your thinking about a fact pattern, thinking about what you're going to write at the outset. So that we're not thinking about it later and stopping and pausing and thinking, and then this is how we run out of time. So the very first thing you do is you check the call of the question. In California, we have a lot more questions that are like kind of broad. What constitutional violations are there? What equitable remedies can the person seek? In the UBE, you tend to have much more specific questions. So where they'll basically like tell you what the issue is. Is there strictly, are they strictly liable for abnormally dangerous activity? Is it a matter of common usage, et cetera? California will just be like, what claims can they bring? So, and this is the difference. California, it's, a 60-minute essay. UBE, it's 30 minutes. So in California, you can spend up to 20 minutes doing steps 1 through 6. UBE, you spend up to about 10 minutes doing it. So check the call of the question, identify your subject. You want to identify the subject that you're in and jot down your subject issue checklist. So if you're in my Mastering the Essays course, which I have for both California and the UBE, I give you the subject issue checklist for all of the subjects. So I give those to you in that class. It's the only place I give them out. But I will give you one tonight for torts, because we're going to do torts, because I think it's a great subject to practice this strategy with. I mean, you could do it with any of them, but torts, it tends to be one of the less intimidating subjects. So early in bar prep, I like to do torts. All right, so you jot down your subject issue checklist. This is really, really quick. You should know it it should take you 10, 15 seconds to write it down. Then you go through and you read the fact pattern, you're issue spotting, you're identifying what the issues are. And so you know how to do this. Everybody knows how to do this. Then you write your skeletal outline and you actually do this in your exam answer. If you're handwriting, you're going to just do it on some scratch paper. But generally speaking, you're going to just type this directly into ExamSoft, like start getting it in there. So you are in this process, you are doing some of your writing. So it's not like you don't write at all in these first, 10 minutes or 20 minutes. So you write your skeletal outline. So it's just your headings, that's it. Then you go through the fact pattern and you put your facts into the skeletal outline. So you put all of your facts in, as many as you can. So this is where there is a difference between California and the UBE. With California essays, you are supposed to use every single little fact in the fact pattern. With the UBE, they're longer fact patterns. You can't use every single fact, but better answers use more facts. Do you want to put in as many facts as you can into your exam answer? So you drop all your facts and you type them in. And I'm going to show you, I'm going to do this with you today. Then step 6 is you triage. This is where a lot of people don't do this. So when people just start like issue spotting and then they start writing, and that leads to running out of time. So what I want you to do is instead is to, like, when you put all your facts in, you're thinking about all the issues, you're identifying where there's counter arguments, you're identifying really where the points are. Where are, what issues are bigger issues? Negligence is a bigger issue than assault, right? There than any intentional tort. So we want to really identify where those issues are. And that's step 6. And failing to do step 6 will lead to people, if you have a time management issue, you're probably not doing step 6. You're probably not doing this at all. You're really not doing step 6. And then you start writing. And when you start writing, like, that's where you're really writing in rules and analysis at the end and conclusions. But you've already put your facts in. Putting in your facts is about half of your analysis. Then you just have to connect the facts and the law. So these are the steps. I go through this in my essay course. We cover every single subject, like big picture, and we cover 2 essays in every single subject. We walk through how do you do essays in this subject. And I've also done a ton of different essays in the past, and you get access to all of the past essays that I have taught. We just have a little drink. Sorry, can you guys understand me okay? I feel like my voice is just so shot. So here's your torts subject issue checklist. All right. I remember it and I just put the first letter, like GINPDSE. Gotta need to pass this dang stupid exam. All right. That's what I remember. So these are my issues. And I go way deeper in this in the actual class. So general issues, that's like your joint and several liability, vicarious liability, just your broader issues. All of your intentional torts, negligence, products liability, defamation, strict liability, and then like your extra torts, your nuisance, malicious prosecution, abusive process, etc. So this is your subject issue checklist for torts. I'm going to give you all a minute to write that down and try to memorize it right now. Like, everybody take a few minutes and like memorize this, like say it over and over to yourself, and then flip it over and see if you like write it down, maybe write it over and over if you have a piece of paper handy. And then we'll quiz you on it in just a second. So everybody take 2 minutes to memorize. All right, everybody have sufficient time to memorize? 2 minutes? Okay, now everybody turn over what you have. Send it to me just as a DM, not to everyone. Send it to me. What is it? What are all of the issues for torts? Good, Mariana. Yeah, the mnemonic is key for me too. Somebody said the mnemonic is key. Very helpful. I try to do that for a lot of stuff. Okay, now you should be able to see a fact pattern on the left and a blank doc on the right. Can you see that? All right, so under what theory or theories, if any, might patron bring an action for damages against homeowner, burglar, or cinema? Discuss. So we've got, I'm just going to tell you we're in torts. So we're going to jot down our issue checklist, and I just do GINDPSE. That's all I do. So I'm like, all right, steps 1 and 2 are done. Right. And I know that it goes very, very quickly for me to write that down because I know it so well. That's just from years and years of knowing this. Right. So steps 1 and 2 are done. Now, step 3, we're going to read through the fact pattern. Let me give you all a few minutes to read it, and then I'll read it out loud with you. I want you all to go through and read it and tell me what issues you see. All right. I'm going to put in my issues. And I want you all to compare. And I want to put in all my headings. Now, there is a distinction between California and the UBE here. Often in the UBE, you might just go straight to a particular issue. Like if it's really causation, you might go straight to causation. California, we run through everything. And often in the UBE, you run through everything too. You just won't have as many issues on an MEE as we do in California. So just fewer issues is really the big distinction. Patron v. homeowner. Negligence with negligence per se. Duty, Andrews, Cardozo, standard of care. Then duty, breach, negligence per se, causation, damages. Okay, so it's for homeowner, it's really just negligence with negligence per se. That's it. Patron v. burglar. So a lot of people are sending me stuff and giving me crimes. It's asking, this is a plaintiff against a defendant. No crimes. There's an assault for what? For the threat. There's a battery for taking the purse. Battery for hitting the ground. There is false imprisonment because she can't go anywhere when he points the gun. It doesn't have to be in a like physical area, but there's, how many of you saw false imprisonment? So what we want to do is we want to list all of the issues that we see here. And then we want to go back through and say, is there anything else that I'm missing? And you want to run through all of the intentional torts, all of them, and ask yourself, what is here? So false imprisonment, a ton of people miss that. There's also IIED, right? How many of you, not many of you sent IIED to me or said that to me. And false imprisonment, yeah, you have to have the intent. You do, and he did. He didn't want her to go. He's pointing a gun at her. So there's absolutely a false imprisonment here. There's also trespass to chattels. And anytime you talk about trespass to chattels, you should talk about conversion too. So there's a second assault here. So the verbal threat, because he demanded that she hand over her purse, and when she refused, he drew the hand, kind of pointed it at her and said, "You made me mad, so now I'm going to shoot you." So you could break that up into two, but I'm like, there's so many issues here. I'm just going to get into it. And then patron v. cinema, negligence, also duty. You're going to see rule above. And the standard of care is for a landowner here and for a regular, reasonably prudent business. So you would talk about both ideally. Breach. And notice that I don't break down duty down here because I did it above. Anytime I break something down above, if I have the same issue again later, I don't break it down because you don't need to. So breach, causation, actual, you don't need to break it down because I broke it down above. Causation, damages, defenses. So this is my step 3. I put in all of my headings. So I'm thinking through what are all of the things that I have. I'm also looking at this and saying there's a lot of issues here. So how do I want to like organize it? So I'm making sure that here I'm not going to break something down as much. You'll also notice like with all of when I was reading through it, how many of you were like, oh my God, there's so many issues here, right? There's a ton of issues in this fact pattern. And so I'm not going to break down each of these intentional torts. I don't have time. So I don't have time to do that. And I'm also going to combine things like trespass to chattels, conversion. So when I see that there's 2 negligence analyses and a bunch of intentional torts, I have to make strategic decisions from the outset. If you're not thinking about this stuff at the beginning of the essay and you just start writing, you're going to run out of time. You don't want to do that. This is a California essay, but you would follow the same process. It's just UBE, you're not going to have as many issues. You might have like negligence and 1 intentional tort, but you follow the same process. All right, so next step is putting in the facts. And this is really, really key. So I want everybody to follow along and pay close attention to this. Okay, so I like to just put in the facts where they go. So I like to just start with my headings and go down rather than going through the fact pattern itself. So a duty is owed under Andrews to anyone that was injured by the defendant's conduct. So P was injured with D's gun. Cardozo. There's 3 things that you have to analyze for is a duty owed under Cardozo. So a lot of people think if they're foreseeable, people just analyze that. But to answer whether they're foreseeable, they must have been a person injured within the zone of danger created by the defendant's conduct and injured. So where is the zone of danger? So we here, and this is so key, you want to think about what is the negligent different thing that each person did. So the negligent thing that homeowner did was leave the gun on the nightstand unsecured. So H left gun on nightstand unsecured. Where is the zone of danger? You want to think really broadly. Zone of danger, that's okay, is anywhere the gun can go. And P was injured with the gun, which shows she was in the zone of danger. Okay, standard of care. A lot of people just think duty, breach, causation, damages, and they really sort of conflate standard of care and breach. I like to separate them out just because you really want to think about it. I think it makes it much easier to just stay organized and make sure that you address everything. So standard of care is a reasonably prudent person. So here we just want to say, what would a reasonably prudent person do? So here I'm going to say, a reasonably prudent person would not leave a dangerous weapon like a gun unsecured where someone could get it and use it inappropriately. That's it. Breach. Now, what's the thing that they did? They failed to do, right? They left it on the nightstand. So homeowner kept a handgun on his bedside table. Okay, now we have a statute. So I'm just going through each little heading and I'm putting in the relevant facts under each thing, right? And I'm doing it a little bit faster than you might because I know this essay, like I could recite this essay in my sleep, but it's going to take you a little bit longer. That's okay. And especially at the beginning, like you're getting used to writing essays now. You're really just like getting into the rhythm of writing. So it's going to go a little slower. That's okay. It's totally okay. It's important that you hit the issues, that you hit the issues, that you're really trying, you're identifying the issues that you know, what you don't know, etc. I want to think about because and I know all of these rules for this. I know my rules for negligence. I know my rules for negligence per se for all of these particular issues, right? That's also key. You have to, one thing that I hope that every single one of you, that there is a falsehood. People say you don't have to worry about memorizing until like the last couple weeks of bar prep. It'll all just come together. I think that that is so false. It's so false. You should be memorizing a bit every single day from here until the bar. You should absolutely be doing some memorizing every single day and practicing essays, practicing MBEs, doing all of this stuff. Every time you force yourself to do an essay, close note, which is what you should be doing every single time. It's actually improving your memorization of the issues. So that is why it's really critical to practice essay close note and do it under timed conditions. And the reason you do it under timed conditions is because you don't want to spend 3 hours doing what you should do in an hour. You don't want to spend time looking stuff up because it doesn't do anything for your memory and it's wasting time. Instead, do the essay, do what you know. And then if you're like, all right, I totally forgot a whole bunch of this stuff, so be it. Fine, right? A couple days later, do that same essay, and you're gonna then now you know what the issues are, and you're going to do much better, and you're gonna really cement those rules, especially the stuff that you didn't know when you wrote it. So that's a really good strategy for like getting into the habit, working on your memorization. So negligence per se. So there is a statute provides that all firearms must be stored a secure container that is fully enclosed and locked. So there has to be a violation, right? So H kept handgun on his bedside table. What do you think? So they don't tell us why the statute was passed. Why do you guys think the statute was passed? So it's something you have to think about. You have to come up with that. So here, it can be a couple things, right? It's a gun. It says firearms, right? Firearms, a lot of people say like, yeah, safety of children in the home. Just safety in general is a dangerous weapon, right? But guns can be used for all sorts of things to threaten people, which is what he did here. And it can cause this exact result. So you can think of it multiple ways, right? So the fact that I'm like, well, one of the things that we're always doing with torts is like looking for, particularly with torts, there's a lot of counter arguments, particularly with like negligence per se, if they don't tell you why a statute was passed. If there's any sort of reasonableness requirement, that's often a really good spot for a counter argument. So H kept a handgun on his bedside table. So I think here, who is it intended to protect? So statute passed to protect from gun violence, including threats. So I'm thinking really broadly, which this falls into, right? You could also take a position, right? It could also be like that the statute passed to prevent gunshots, which is not what happened here, right? And to protect people like, young people from getting a handle of it. So you could also take that approach. So the fact that I think there's two things that tells me there's a counter argument. And when there's a counter argument, I put the fact in another little, because this is going to be a separate analysis paragraph. So I put it here and I put a little asterisk because I know I'm going to use that for a counter argument. So you want to be thinking of counter arguments at the beginning. Yeah, you can argue remoteness, but that's in causation. And then did she suffer the type of harm? So P fainted from shock. The type of harm, it wasn't a gunshot, but you can argue that the shock is part of what they're trying to do. So actual cause, yeah. So D or H left gun on nightstand and B used gun in attack. The actual cause, proximate cause. It's really that there's the remoteness argument is that there's a third party intervener, right? So burglar is third party criminal actor, which can cut off the chain of causation, But I want to point something out. Homeowner kept a handgun on his table to protect himself against intruders. So was it foreseeable that somebody might break in and steal it or that somebody might break in? He's worried about intruders. So there's this with, regarding like whether or not it's foreseeable, it might be that someone might steal it and use it inappropriately, which is what happened here. You can absolutely go either way. You can go either way. So on negligence per se, this is why you have to do the standard like duty breach also. Negligence per se establishes that there was a duty, and if it was violated and you meet all the requirements, that there was a breach. So burglar is third party criminal actor. H kept handgun on bedside table to protect against intruders. Okay. Damages, P fainted, and purse stolen. There's really no defenses here. Okay. So we want to put in our facts. I'm going to keep doing this. I'm going to fill this all in. So assault, the threat, B, in the parking lot, patron just between the attack either B approached P and demanded that she hand over her purse. He refused. B drew, and you can use shorthand B and P and H, that's fine. Handgun, pointed it at patron and stated, "You made me mad, so now I'm going to shoot you." All right, so that's basically the facts for the assaults. Basically this, so then also taking the purse. So burglar, I'll just say B, took P's purse and fled. So remember that it doesn't have to be like it's harmful or offensive. He is touching her because he's taking something that's intimately associated with her. It's her purse. Hitting the ground. He also caused her to hit the ground. So P fainted out of shock. False imprisonment. Same, it's a lot of the same facts from here. So I'm just going to copy these facts down. I don't like using copy paste generally, but that's okay. IIED, it's also really the same facts. Trespass to chattels and conversion. So B took P's purse and fled. B was later apprehended by police. So we don't know if she got her purse back, but it would definitely be at least trespass to chattels, could be conversion. Now we go down to cinema. Fainted out of shock. Oh yeah. Yeah, we're gonna catch that in a second. I'm doing this. Let's see. Somebody asked a question. So duty. So it's different here. It's a little bit different. So cinema. What did they owe? So, so how did cinema create a zone of danger? So cinema. Let's see. Had been aware of some previous tags but did not provide a no lighting or security guard. Cinema was aware of previous attacks and did not provide security or lighting. All right, standard of care of a landowner. What would a landowner do? So we want to talk about her. She's an invitee. P is customer of C. What would a reasonably prudent business do? Probably aware of attacks, would hire security or install lighting. Breach, C did not provide security or lighting. Causation. So here, causation, right? We have, burglar is third party criminal actor. So if B is a third party criminal actor, it's definitely foreseeable here, though, because cinema had been aware of several previous attacks on its customers in the parking lot at night during the past several years, but provided no lighting or security guard. Damages, he fainted out of shock and suffered a concussion. Defenses, I'm going to just say maybe there's some assumption of risk because she went there late, right? So patron exited around midnight. Okay. So I went through and I put in all of my facts, right? So now this is what's really, really key. This is what's key is I want to go through the fact pattern and identify every fact and make sure that I used it. And what I want to do right now is show you guys how many little facts are in here, because this is really what's key and what most people miss. When I say, did you use every fact? I often will say, did you use every little fact? So people are like, yeah, I used that or I stated that. And did you actually connect the law and the facts with the because clause? So here, and I'm going to change highlight color. The homeowner kept a handgun on his bedside table in order to protect himself against intruders. That's another fact. The statute provides that all firearms must be stored in a secure container that is fully enclosed and locked. Burglar broke into homeowner's house while homeowner was out and stole the handgun. That's really all one fact. Burglar subsequently used the handgun. So that's actually a little bit different. I didn't type that fact in. That should go in. So I'm like, oh, I didn't actually state that. So B, okay. I know I did say it. That's okay. In a parking lot belonging to cinema, I'm like, oh, they're a landowner. I need to actually establish that they're a landowner. So that's actually a different fact. Patron had just exited the cinema around midnight. I'm like, I didn't use the fact that she just exited the cinema, which really shows that she's an invitee. So I want to add that in. Not totally critical, but I want to add that in. Exited the cinema. I did state it somewhere else. Is the customer C had just exited the cinema. Parking lot belongs to cinema. So after viewing a late movie, that's where I'm going to use that for like maybe she assumed the risk. During the attack, burglar approached patron, demanded that she hand over her purse. So here, that is, I do use that for the intentional torts. Patron refused. Maybe that's a defense, right? That like, I don't, it doesn't work for intentional torts, but maybe you could say assumption of risk there, right? So patron refused to hand over her purse. You could say that for the cinema. It's not going to work, but I want to make sure that I'm using every fact. So when I go through and I check, did I use this fact? Did I use this fact? I'm going to see other issues and I'm going to see ways to deepen my analysis, which is what's really important. Burglar drew the handgun, pointed at the patron, and stated, "You made me mad, so now I'm going to shoot you." Patron fainted out of shock. Hadn't actually said that. That shows IIED, right? Somebody had mentioned that. So that there was extreme emotional distress. Suffered a concussion, so there's damages. Burglar took her purse and fled. So, conversion, trespass to chattels. Was later apprehended by the police. Again, that's like a debate. Is it trespass to chattels or conversion? We don't really know. Cinema had been aware at night during the past several years. That's one fact. And we did use that, but provided no lighting or security guard. Do you guys see how many different facts are in here? And like a lot of times people are like, yeah, I use that sentence. They'll highlight each sentence and say like, yes, I use that sentence. I use that sentence. But there are so many facts buried in. And yes, Eileen, you will be able to watch this. You'll be able to watch this presentation in our free bar essays courses. Yeah. So this is what you do. And so one thing that everybody should do, because particularly when you're engaging in a self-assessment after you finish an essay, you want to go through and really like dissect the facts. Did you use everything? And not only that, you want to go through and say, did I actually explain the significance of every fact? So here, let's take an example. No, in UBE, you should have at least one. Somebody asked, is there less of an expectation from UBE graders to see counter arguments? No. California, you should have like at least one counter argument in each essay, and ideally two. UBE, you should have at least one counter argument in every essay. So it's the same. So why do we type the facts in? Why do I type the facts in ahead of time? Because it's actually writing half of your analysis. So let's say so I've got everything in, I've checked, I've triaged. I know if I have 40 minutes left, because this is California, UBE, you would have fewer issues. You have 20 minutes left. I know I need to like get through these, and I've got a whole massive negligence analysis at the bottom with the landowner duty. So you have an extra standard of care that's a little bit more detailed. So if I say, so I start writing my rules, and rules can be incredibly and should be incredibly simple. Defendant is liable for negligence when there is duty, breach, causation, and damages. And that's it. A duty is owed to foreseeable plaintiffs. A plaintiff is foreseeable, or courts adopt two views. Adopt either the Andrews or Cardozo view to evaluate whether a plaintiff is foreseeable. Andrews is a minority. You have to do Cardozo. You don't have to do Andrews necessarily. UBE, you would not do Andrews. California, a better answer would. Under Andrews, a duty is owed to anyone injured by the defendant's conduct. So when the facts are here, I want to take the buzzwords. So here, the buzzwords from the rule, the part of the rule that's important is anyone injured by the defendant's conduct. These are the buzzwords. You're going to write the rules in here, James. You're going to write the rules in here. So my buzzwords is when I write my analysis, it's basically here there is or is not buzzwords because facts. So here, D was injured by, sorry, D, he was injured by the defendant's conduct because, and my facts are in there for my analysis. P was injured with D's gun. And then I'm going to do my conclusion. Thus, a duty is owed under Andrews. And that's it. So I've used all my facts, then I go and I've done all of my thinking ahead of time. And now I can just spend the last, this is why we want to think through all the issues. We want to follow this process is because now I know what the issues are. I know that I have a huge issue at the end that I need to save myself time for. So I'm going to jam through these issues. I know what the things that are a little bit tougher. I know that I have a counter argument with negligence per se. I know I have a counter argument with proximate cause here. So I need to get through this issue. It's probably going to take me 12, 15 minutes. And I have 40 minutes left. So 15 minutes here, probably going to be 10 minutes on the last negligence issue and maybe 10 to 15 minutes with all the intentional torts. So you're just going to go through, type in your rule, take the fact, connect the law and the facts with a because clause, and type your conclusion, go to the next issue. And you just do this all the way through. I also have an example for UBE people in my PowerPoint. And so it's in the slides. I also did an example of following this structure for a UBE SA2 that you can find. So that'll be posted. And also just so everybody knows, we have, I do this because we have classes where we teach this stuff and go very in depth. So I wanted to show everybody or tell y'all, we have our Mastering the Essays course. It starts on December 12th. So we do an overview of every subject. The classes start and I walk through this process with every subject. I talk about unique issues that come up with every subject. We cover 2 essays in every subject. I give you all sorts of analysis formulas. We practice. I talk about the difference between how do you get to a passing answer, like how do you go from getting, below passing to passing? What moves the needle? The UBE MEE template book is not out just yet. I'm hoping to have it out in the next 2 weeks. So that'll be out very soon. I talk about time management. I talk about issue spotting, all sorts of stuff. So there's tons and tons of stuff that I cover in this class. You also get access to every past essay that I've taught so that you can go through and practice all sorts of essays. Somebody asked me in the chat, and I don't do discounts for the live courses. I'm doing it for the MBE course. We're doing that just because it's the first time we're teaching that class. But I don't do discounts at all for these classes. My essay approach is not so unique that I can look at posted answers and tell if the author is one of my students. No, this is what everybody should use. I've also taught this in numerous law schools, but I can tell this is just how essays should be written in general. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me. If you guys have any questions, if you need anything, please feel free to reach out. And I hope you found this class helpful. Thanks so much for joining me. Bye. Oh yeah, the classes it starts December 12th. They start at 5:30 p.m. for the UBE Eastern time. And for California, they start at 6 p.m. California time. So, and I will post the link to the classes. During the session, I'm not going into, so here's California. And we also have an option if you want to split it into 2 payments, you can. So there's the link for California if you want to sign up. Here is the MEE. And we also offer a version, if you like attending live, if you like coming and because in class we do practice, I give you feedback. So you guys were sending me your stuff a DM and I'm telling you feedback. We do that with writing analysis. We do it with counter arguments, etc. So the difference is in the live class, you can get some of that live feedback. You can ask questions. If you want the recorded version, it's just like watching a recorded version of this workshop. You're engaging in the practice that we do, but you're just not getting that live feedback. You don't get the chance to ask live questions, but you can always email us questions too. All right, everybody, thank you so much for joining me, and hopefully we'll see you soon. And sign up for if you want, our other free workshop. I'm doing a PT one on Thursday. Thanks, everybody. Bye.